The judge calls the witnesses and interrogates them, asks them questions concerning the incidents and circumstances. Following that, the court will, or the judge will then instruct the jury on the law and submit the matter to them. And they render then a decision as to the, there was a death, who the decedent was, the time of the death, and the means and circumstances surrounding the death.
A more comprehensive review of the policies and modes of operation of the police department of the city of Portland, especially those related to, number one, the use of firearms by officers, the issuing of orders from superior officers, the internal relationship of the department as they relate to the increasing request of officers to have more equipment, firearms, etc., on their possessions. And
the mayor told the Alliance today, anytime anyone is killed, it's time for soul searching. The Alliance indicated today it's time to turn soul searching into action. This is Boyd Levitt, Channel 6 News in Northeast Portland.
The concerns that are being raised here about firearms policy and the procedures for training and the rest of the things that I think are all appropriate. And following the conclusion of the inquest, I think that some issues have been raised both by the Ministerial Alliance and by the Black Student Union that open up the possibility not just of the Bureau looking at those previous cases, but perhaps the black community having a chance, or the whole city having a chance, to look carefully into how effectively we investigated them, what kind of training experience we gained from them, and what kind of suggestions the community can make that we handle these cases better in the future.
Currently, a police officer is subjected to a lengthy and detailed inquiry by his supervisors, by the detectives, the district attorney's office, the firearms board, and the grand jury. We feel these are necessary, justifiable procedures to ensure that our officers act in a professional, responsible manner. But this deviation from the standard procedure is nothing more than a refusal of our district attorney to accept his responsibilities. If he felt the police officer had committed an illegal act, he should have immediately presented the case to the grand jury instead of hiding behind the cloak of a public inquest.
The handbill alleges that perhaps the officer who shot and killed young Ricky Johnson was moonlighting for Radio Cab, was he?
No truth in it whatsoever. No moonlighting at all.
They're also alleging in his handbill that perhaps Radio Cab conspired to help set up to shoot him. What about that?
None whatsoever. Our driver was robbed, he was robbed on Wednesday evening, and the robbery attempt again on Thursday. Same address, same house.
What are your feelings about disseminating this kind of a handbill into the community?
I think it's completely uncalled for and unwarranted.
And this is more or less a situation in reverse, where we have the criminal telling the victim, it's okay. It's okay if I hit you on your head. It's okay if I shoot you in the back of your head. It's the criminal telling the victim this. And we as a community, if we're ever going to take a stand, the time now is to take a stand and to stop being victims and to stop reacting and start acting and speak up with the voice and the power that we have now before we won't even have that.
When a police officer, in fact, does shoot and kill somebody, psychological counseling is necessary. The next day or the day after, or in some cases right at the time, these guys are really shook up. Now, there's no sympathy ever given to the police officer. They think, well, you just simply shoot somebody and walk off down the road just like in television. That's not the case at all. These guys are really psychologically affected. The trauma is there, and we're concerned about that.
I think if it had gone to the grand jury, then all we would have had is what we just had 5 minutes ago, and that was the verdict.
Would you encourage a further inquest beyond this one?
The overall justice for the community and so forth was served. I really feel that.
Do you think that the police force, as well as yourself, was on trial in terms of how you react and how you're able to do your job in the black community now?
Has it affected me? Well, I'm sure it will for a short time, but I think that with this public hearing as open as it was today, I don't think that there will be any question from here on out. Okay, thank you.
I don't think we're going to stop here. I think that the community now is going to take a look at this and to go back and to organize and to see what we can do to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again.
Mr. Casson, what's your opinion of the verdict itself?
I disagree with it.
For what reasons, could you tell us?
I just don't think it was right.
I don't think that a public inquest would be necessary every time a police officer is involved in a shooting. I do think that there are some cases, as this case was a good example, in which a public inquest is in the best interest of the officer involved, in the best interest of the police bureau, because it lets the public know what an officer faces under very difficult situations, and it lets them know how such a thing as that can happen, and allows them to come to a conclusion, and which they did in this case, at least the jury did, that it was justified.
Stell counsels these people. He has appointed, the department has assisted in appointing a group of policemen that know what it's like to be in that situation. These policemen contact, and they also contacted the officer involved in the last shooting, and just to try to keep the guy on an even keel.
The Black Justice Committee is disappointed in the outcome of the inquest verdict, but it is consistent with our expectations in light of history. We plan a continuing effort to educate and organize the community around issues relating to the black community's health, safety, and security. We will follow through with efforts to change city and police policies related to public servant interaction with the black community. We hope to enlarge and increase the efficiency of community-based organizations to work with those issues related to the interests of Portland's black community.
Definitely not. On Thursday, Mr. Lezak, the United States Attorney here in Portland, orally requested the FBI to conduct an investigation under the civil rights statutes into the recent shootings of 4 blacks by the Portland Police Bureau. The results of FBI investigation in this regard will be turned over to the United States Attorney's Office and also to the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice.
And if it makes the community feel any better or any more certain that its police agency is doing its job, then I think it'll have been worth the discomfort. I feel sorry for the officers involved, and I think it'll be a tough thing for them, but I think in this case the public feels it wants to do it, and the United States Attorney agrees, and for that reason I think we just have to kind of step aside and help them do the job as fast as possible.
I hate to think that I would be, to any other person, a representative of a given group of people. I think we can only sell ourselves as individuals and not say, I represent the black, no, the black, so to speak, because I don't think I do. Back to subject. And right for the room 301, room today. Got it? Okay.
This budget clearly indicates that this whole academic improvement argument is a fraud. While the advocacy base for Chicanos, Native Americans, poor whites, and blacks has been eliminated, the funds saved by this elimination have been diverted to areas that will do little to ensure quality higher educations for the students we serve. A smokescreen of nice-sounding rhetoric has been created while administrative offices will receive more funds than ever before and comparatively little attention will be paid to instructional projects. If a student took everything that we 180 Native Americans had come to the university and how over the course of the from which they came. I would also think that the money could be used for culturally enriching courses where you Once again, while minority students and faculty were away from campus, this is the fourth time it's been done, the university has given the impression of reorganizing its minority programs by using a strong public relations campaign, but it has done very little to honor its rhetoric about meeting academic concerns by making sincere efforts to put its money where its mouth is.
As was the case in the public inquest, the federal investigation failed to properly merit the substantial evidence supporting the police department's malice. The Black Justice Committee pledges its continued vigilance on behalf of the Black community of Portland in matters relevant to the health, security, and education of the Black community.
Very terrible. I have another big fear about the personality of this figure. He caused me to remember, you know what I mean, and ask ourselves if our own hypocrisy and dishonesty chance to share this week with you, and I think Concordia College is to help bring attention to the fact that our struggles as Americans
What my job is to come out and give you an understanding of where we're coming from. Just to make sure that everybody's out there is with me, let me hear you say, yeah. Yeah. Right on, right on.
Bear in mind that death is a drum, beating forever. Or the music that you listen to.
Industry or automobiles?
World War II.
First one.
Over poof! Back up on foot.
would think that a delay was called for if for no reason other than the fact that the public was very concerned and that obviously there was a feeling that there hadn't been enough community input, and any decision that would have been made last night, other than a delay, probably would not have gained community support.
Critics of these poverty programs say they're not working and that they encourage people to stay on welfare. However, all the people we talk with today say they know the man that represents the United States is Uncle Sam and not Santa Claus. Ed Whalen, Channel 6 News, Northeast Portland.
As a matter of fact, I don't look at it as a handout at all. I think it's a human service we all need, and that it is available, and as long as it is available, that anyone needing the service should come out and apply and receive that service.
They also were of the belief and in accord with the coalition regarding renewed publicity efforts and additional counseling efforts to attract majority students to the Jefferson specialized programs, which really are very excellent and have a fine national reputation. And third, the board, I think, was in agreement, as was I, that we need to take additional steps to further strengthen the academic program at Jefferson so that it will be increasingly attractive to particularly those students that live in that area.
And when you have that kind of emerged institution, apart from the kids that are in that Washington school like Benson, where they do not have at present 15% minority.
Let's face it,